You are listening to Making It in the Toy Industry, episode number 276.
Welcome to Making It in the Toy Industry, a podcast for inventors, entrepreneurs, and makers like you. And now, your host, Azhelle Wade.
Hey there, toy people. Azhelle Wade here, and welcome back to another episode of Making It in the Toy Industry. This is a weekly podcast brought to you by thetoycoach.com. My guest today is Joanna Cotton, a sculptural artist aspiring to craft cozy fantasy worlds into our reality through cozy characters and capturing their silly little adventures with toy design and miniature photography. If you are an artist or a storyteller who dreams of turning your creations into collectible toys, this is the episode for you. Today, we're interviewing a student from the Toy Creators Academy Accelerator program who turned her personal design of her characters and clay sculpting talent into a fully funded Kickstarter campaign for her new toy made out of those characters. This episode is going to be part of our special coaching series where I sit down with students to talk about real challenges they're working on right now and to celebrate their progress and share their toys with you. They're going to be pitching their product to you at the end, our amazing group of toy people, and I'm just so excited to get started. Joanna, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, and thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on the show. I mean, this is a long time coming, and I'm so proud of you for your Kickstarter campaign. How does it feel?
Oh, it's still kind of surreal after being so kind of overwhelmed with all of the prep work for months. It's amazing to finally have it finished and done, and the funds are going to hit my account at some point, so that'll be great. We can get started on making the product.
Quick overview question for you. Did you feel like you actually checked off all the boxes on that huge to-do list that you had for the Kickstarter campaign?
There was a point where I realized there were certain things that I was just going to have to do after the campaign. Like I wanted to get a sort of an idea of how logistics of shipping and everything was going to work, so I knew I was costing correctly.
Yeah.
But there were some things where I was like, I just need to wait until I've actually got the funding for the project before I worry about this. But yeah, I managed to hit all of the major milestones on my to-do list that I wanted to have done before launching. So yeah, it went well.
That is fantastic. I also have to say, because you are not the typical personality someone would expect to run something like this, because like you're an artist, like you're primarily an artist. And would you say you're like an introvert? Somewhat of an introvert? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, like you're an artist and an introvert, and literally this whole Kickstarter campaign is like Lisa Furland, who we'll talk about a little bit when we get into this, who worked with me and you to help you prepare for the Kickstarter campaign. We talked about how you have to like get out there and constantly talk about your brand and talk about your campaign, and that just so wasn't you, but you did it.
Yeah, it's very intense with the amount of kind of promotion you have to do. You constantly have to be shoving it in people's faces that it's happening. It was full on for a couple of weeks, but I got through it.
And I loved seeing when the video came out with you actually in the video holding your character. Oh, I was so happy because I was like, oh, she never shows her face. I love it. It's so great. It's so great.
Yeah,
okay.
It was a lot.
Well, let's get into the format of this episode. We're going to start with part one. We'll do our coaching session. If there's anything else you want to talk about, we'll break through that. And then part two, we'll talk more about your campaign, celebrate your wins and progress. So first question I want to ask you, what was going on in your life when you decided that you wanted to join not just Toy Creators Academy, but you wanted to go back for the accelerator? Why did you think that was the right move?
Yeah, well, before I joined, I was mostly doing artwork and selling it kind of through my online store. I was making a lot of nerdy kind of merchandise and selling it in different like fandoms that I was a part of. And I was looking at figures that were being made and mass produced and thinking, well, my artwork looks like what these figures that are kind of reaching a huge audience. They look the same. So how can I go from making clay models one at a time to being able to just sculpt the design and really care about creating the character and then have somebody else mass produce it for me? Mm-hmm. And so that was really where I was kind of at. And I realized the amount of money it was going to take me to figure out through trial and error that process of taking things into mass production, because I didn't have a clue how factories worked or how you would find one or contact one. The amount of money it would take to kind of navigate that process and then learn from mistakes. Toy Creators Academy was probably a lot cheaper than going through all of the errors. And you just presented all of the information I needed with no need for me to take like a year or two of just failing to learn how to do all of
Mm.
this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I
So,
love
yeah.
that. Thank you so much. And I actually am really curious. Selfishly, I want to hear like Toy Creators Academy is a little bit self-led. And even when there is a live cohort where we're meeting every week, it's still very much like you have to drive yourself to go through the material. Whereas the accelerator was more like we were meeting every month and then you were telling me where you were at. And I was like, oh, well, you need this specific thing from the course, or let me make this specific introduction for you. So did you know that the accelerator was going to be that different, or what were you expecting and what actually happened from the accelerator versus the regular program?
The accelerator was great because it meant that I was able to keep working on what I was doing rather than waiting for like the monthly calls. Your Toy Creators program is great in the fact that we have the Facebook group so we can go and talk to other people and say like, has anyone got any experience with this particular issue?
Yeah.
But in terms of just having access to contacting you, I could like send you an email and say, this is what my factory sent me. I don't understand what they're talking about. So and you could say, this is what they mean. This is the
Yeah.
question you need to be asking. Or like,
Yeah.
this is the memo that you're not getting right now.
Yeah.
And just having that immediacy of communication, of being able to take the next step rather than wait and have to like wait for the monthly call to clarify things. That was a huge asset in being able to get through what I was doing quicker.
In the age of AI, what makes you want to email me and not like jump on a chat bot or something and ask them that question? When you said that, I'm wondering, I'm like, I love that she wants to talk to me, but why me over like any chat bot?
Because AI can just make up the answer, whereas you've actually got like the real industry experience and the know-how and just like the nuances of like what's actually going on behind the scenes. You understand the pipelines of like toy production. Whereas AI, I can ask it a question and it'll draw from a bunch of websites and compile what it thinks is the correct answer. And it will very confidently tell me it's the correct answer, but isn't always the correct answer.
Oh, you just inspired an idea for like a podcast. Like now business owners have to have confidence of AI. Like you have to deliver the information with the confidence of AI or people are going to not believe it just because you don't have the confidence of AI. That's so interesting. That's so interesting how it does deliver wrong information confidently.
It does. As someone who's very introverted, if you give me a confident statement, I will trust that you have the authority to know what you're talking about. But AI doesn't. It's just making it up as it goes.
Yeah. One time I put something into it and it gave me something wrong. And I was like, that's not true. And then it was like, oh, you're right. That isn't true. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, sir. What was that? So I guess what shifted your mindset was just having that support and help, that mindset from like, I don't know where to get started to like, I can really do this. But you tell me, what was the moment where you thought, I have no idea how to contact factories. I don't think this is a realistic thing. I don't think I can afford this to, oh, maybe I can do this.
It really was just getting into the program and understanding the process of how things kind of work in like a more typical production workflow, but then also just learning from the other people in the program and getting to realize that there are other avenues and different pathways and different ways to do different things. And there's not like one set way to go about it. I went with a more typical steel injection mold sort of workflow, but I took my characters and scanned them into digital like format. So I physically sculpt with clay and then I wanted to get them replicated exactly in the computer. So it was my characters and my designs being created. But due to medical issues, I can't use a computer for that amount of time to be doing like digital sculpting. So it was really just seeing lots of different experiences and lots of different perspectives on how to tackle different problems that made me think, okay, I can find a workflow here that kind of works around what I want to be doing.
I love that. I love that you don't give up. It's so hard to find people that just will power through. But I guess it's the support that there were days where you were messaging me and you're like, I don't know. Remember the flock incident? Okay, so Joanna had developed this character and his name is Bloop and he's a cute bear. He's adorable. And when she made him with a factory, she wanted to flock him so that he would be fuzzy. And just the sampling process of the flocking was so challenging. The last challenge that broke the camel's back was when we couldn't see the final colorway until we approved for production. And
Yeah.
Joanna, honestly, you made this call before me. Normally, I would be the one to make this call to a student, but Joanna was like, I'm not going to do flocking. I was like, I was scared. I was like, oh no, are the fans going to be okay? But I would love you to talk a little bit about the research you did to your fans where you found out they didn't really care about the flocking. And if anything, it might make things worse.
Yeah, I was really worried at the start that perhaps I needed my hand sculpted designs to be somewhat more professional, like a bit more sleek and a bit more touched up.
Mm-hmm.
And at the start, I didn't think it would be possible for me to scan my work into the computer. I thought I was going to have to work through a digital sculptor and kind of guide them to replicate my characters. So I thought, how can I make the toys different from my sort of more handcrafted world? And I thought, okay, well, I'll get all the toys flocked so that it looks like they're fuzzy when they actually exist in our world as opposed to their little universe. But it just got to the point where flocking would have been possible, but the costs of prototyping and the risks I'd be taking, like investing in molding before I fully understood what was going on or what the final product was going to be like, I just realized flocking can be something down the line if I want to revisit it. But right now it's not going to be working. So we scrapped that idea and everything got easier after that.
It did get so much easier. We spent months on flocking. But there was also a comment that your fans made about flocking. Do you remember it? Because I do.
Oh yeah, there is a subsect of kind of people that collect the same sort of figures who will just adamantly not collect anything that's flocked because they get dusty over time. And if you don't care for them, like I'm honestly terrible with my maintenance of like dusting all of my figures, but if you don't care for them, they will get dusty and they will get grimy and it's not pretty to look at anymore if you neglect them. So even though they're really nice to touch and they look really cute when they're clean, if you leave them on a shelf for a month, you'll like do a double take.
Yeah. And then it's not representing your brand anymore that well, right? But I would say, like, okay, so Joanna gave up the tactile feel of touching Bloop with the flocking, but you would not give up on the toe beans. Even though I was like, Joanna, I was like, I don't know, this is very small. I don't think we can do the toe beans. You were adamant about these toe beans.
And the funny thing is that like a week or two after we finally got them on the model and they were working, they were approved, they were going ahead, Animal Crossing released some new plushies and the entire internet was freaking out because these plushies had toe beans. And I'm like, yes, this is the vision. I was telling everyone this was important. It's a selling point.
Oh, that's so awesome. Oh, that's so cool. You were so right. I mean, and the factory like didn't understand it. I remember I was like I had to keep giving you words. I was like, tell them this. Like, I don't remember what it was. It was like, tell them it's inset, tell them it's flocked. I was like, illustrate it like this. Like they didn't understand, right? They were like, yeah.
Eventually, I ended up sculpting exactly what I wanted it to look like, and I sent them a video of me like turning it around in my hands, like
That
just
makes
the foot,
sense.
and like so they could see because it needed to be flat on the bottom so that the figure didn't wobble when it was
Yes.
standing,
Yeah.
and just the recessed kind of like outline of the toe beans.
Yes.
But we got there in the end.
Yeah, you did. And you highlighted on your Kickstarter video. I mean, you and Samantha, just A plus 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 toy creators, like just incredible. Like you were just amazing. So I know I often talk about toy paths in this industry. Which toy path are you currently on? Inventor, entrepreneur, executive?
Yeah, very much kind of on the entrepreneur path at the moment, but I think I do want to lean more towards inventor, but not in the more kind of classical sense as just coming up with ideas, but I want to be creating my characters and creating the designs and all of that, and possibly figure out some sort of way to be licensing to someone that can make the toys. Because after going through this experience, juggling so many hats, I mean, I haven't sculpted anything in weeks. I just want to, I want to make more cute animals.
Welcome
So,
to the entrepreneur life in the toy industry. You make like one product and then that's all you do is market it. Right? That's
yeah.
like all you do is market it.
So at the moment, I'm in the entrepreneur seat, but long term, I very much want to shift into that inventor role and find some way of licensing out my characters so someone else can go and make the toy and I can just make the designs and the collections.
So anyone listening, like the Fren Forest brand is potentially up for licensing. So
If you're interested, if you're looking for collectible toys, I am very eager to design all of them.
yes, and she's a very engaged audience. So, and growing.
Yeah.
So now give us your elevator pitch for Friend Forest. How would you describe it if you had just a 30-second elevator ride with someone?
Well, I think Fren Forest is a safe and comfy little world of animal friends who find joy in silly adventures and everyday moments. They cherish kindness and nature, and each character has their own hobbies and their own story. But I wanted to start with Bloop Bear because they really embody beautiful love of life and they're very present and they're in the moment. So it's a perfect companion for anyone that struggles with anxiety. And I really wanted to create collectible toys that look like they're interacting with the environment. So they don't just look good on a shelf, but you can have them around your desk and around your space, and they just bring comfort and coziness to your day.
How many characters are in the Friend Forest world right now?
Oh, I think technically eight.
Eight.
They're not all super prominent on social media. Bloop has been hogging the social media page for months.
What's the name of the fox?
Fren.
Oh, that's Fren.
Yeah, that's where the
Oh,
name Fren Forest comes from.
oh, cute. What has been the most challenging part of launching this character brand as a toy brand?
Probably just figuring out how I'm going to navigate toy production because toy production is such a big industry as a whole,
Yeah.
and brand building is
Mm.
almost an entirely different beast of a full-time job.
Yes. Yes. That. Well, this leads to the next question. If you could instantly just snap your fingers and fix one thing in your business or perfect one thing in your business, what would it be?
I would magic up a 3D printer that can print in full color smooth prints, and that would just fix all of my problems.
Really?
Because then I can sculpt the characters, I can scan them into the computer and print a million of them, and that would just be wonderful.
Did you hear my 3D episode with Salobo Toys?
Yeah, that was
Oh,
fantastic. It was really interesting, and it came out
yeah.
at just the perfect time because I was kind of in a moment of thinking, how is this going to be manageable long term? I really think in a couple of years, 3D printing is just going to keep getting better and better and better
Agreed.
to the
Agreed.
point where eventually I will just be able to print what I can design.
I know. I feel the same way. And I'm like, is now the time that I should jump in and just like buy one and play with it just to not have to start from the beginning once it is ready to do mass production?
At the moment, they're so finicky to
Yeah.
coordinate and to
Yeah.
set up. And if you want smooth prints, you really need to be looking at resin, which is just a whole other set of problems. Like my brain cannot tolerate resin. It gives me horrible headaches.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say the smell would be terrible.
I
You know,
am not built for that sort of production.
you need the filament option to be smooth print. Oof.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for
Yeah.
technology to catch up.
To catch up. Yeah, AI should be solving that problem. Why don't we?
Exactly. Stop replacing the artists and
Yeah,
start building technology for us.
seriously, seriously, so that we can produce our art.
Yeah.
What do you think your next move should be with Friend Forest?
I think logically the smart move would be creating, like starting to do series or collections of toys, because and thinking about how I can be making it into a collectible toy by having multiple. But really, I want to look at finding or starting conversations around licensing
Okay.
and figuring out how I can set myself up as the designer of the brand
Yeah.
and possibly look at working with someone who can be making the toys and doing the marketing. Similar to like
Love that.
bigger brands of collectible figures, like you did a podcast episode recently on Labubu.
Yeah.
The artist that's designing those toys is probably having a wonderful time right now.
100%.
They're
Yeah.
just creating their character, making new ideas, making new concepts. There's like this Wacky Mart Labubu collection that's just coming out where it's all themed around various grocery like things. And it's adorable. It's wonderful. I'm just thinking the artist must have had so much fun creating all of these concepts. They send it to Pop Mart, and Pop Mart's like, brilliant, we'll make a million and sell them
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. So have you been feeling stuck with this new goal, or how have you been feeling with this new goal?
where I've been feeling most stuck, I think, is really just around how I could potentially manage all of the spinning plates of running a business.
Mm,
And that's really holding me up because I have all of these ideas for designs and collections and toys. And the difficulty has been kind of navigating the logistics of all of the other components that come into running a business. And
mm,
like the tariffs a couple months ago, which is crazy to say that was a couple months ago, that like sent me into a complete spiral of like, how
right.
am I meant to be able to manage all of these logistics? Like, how am I meant to manage getting all of this product onto a boat, getting it shipped, getting it imported, getting all of the customs correct, all of the duties paid, all of that set up and navigated, and making sure that I'm doing it all correctly? Because if I do it wrong, I'm not going to figure out that it was wrong until like customs throw out my shipment and say, never mind, you didn't fill out the customs correctly. And the only reason I didn't do that was because nobody told me how to do it correctly.
Right, 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 right.
So it's sometimes you don't even know what you're not worrying about,
Right.
which is scary.
I do have to say, with customs, with barcodes, I have found ChatGPT to actually be quite helpful in catching holes. I have a professional account, so supposedly my information is not being used to train the model. Who knows? But when I have to fill out a form like that and I'm not 100% sure, like the form has changed, I don't know what this means or that means, or the tariffs have changed and I don't know like how it's going to affect me or when or my clients. I have been throwing everything in there and just being like, can you just check this? Can you just tell me, am I missing something? What does this mean? What does that mean? And I would, for these things, don't put all that weight on you. Because, like, I would say the one good thing I think about ChatGPT is for independent business owner, there are things that it can take off of our shoulders. Like, you can have it compile data for you. Like, when I have customer data, like anonymous surveys about my services or whatever, I'll put that into ChatGPT and be like, what's like the overarching theme here? What's something I need to fix? What's something that I'm really good at? And not having to read through and like adjust through all that data is so helpful when you're one woman show, you're one person show. Like, you can't do it all. And now you don't really have to. So, like, there are some things I definitely think if you're feeling like really overwhelmed and it's also a thing where it's very technical and you can't mess this up, I would introduce AI to try to help you go through it because it's been very helpful for me.
Yeah, I think sorting through data, especially, is going to be one of the best uses for AI going forwards.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It takes seconds. It's incredible. So, the licensing piece, number one thing you need to do is like build your notoriety for your brand. Before anybody's going to want to license your brand, they're going to say, how big of a following does it have? What is the benefit of me creating a product with it? I did an interview with Anita Castellar, who is a licensing rep, and definitely we should put you in contact with her after this. Maybe you're at the stage where she can help you license out your brand. Maybe she might say, grow a little bit more, and we'll talk in the future. But in my interview with her, I'll send you the link to it. We talked about how even small brands like yours can benefit from licensing deals. So, like, there's someone like you, and then say there's someone who has a small arts and crafts company, and small meaning they generate $10,000 a month. They're paying their bills with this small arts and crafts company, but it's not like their life isn't changed yet. But then they meet you and then you say, hey, like, I would love for you to make a Fren Forest arts and crafts kit. And they say, oh, that would be great. And then you agree, come to some agreement of 30-40% share of royalties when they get to use your name. And then you get to promote to your list, like, we have this arts and crafts product coming out, and this company that makes these arts and crafts is going to be applying our characters to their arts and crafts, and you won't have to do that production, but they will be so used to creating, I don't know, brush sets and things that they don't have to re-engineer anything. They're just applying your new characters. So there could be an opportunity for two, like a mid-size and then your business, or a small and then your business, to partner to start your licensing path, which it won't be life changing at first. It won't be like new characters at first, but if you can build up your portfolio, like starting with maybe arts and crafts, starting maybe apparel, starting stationery is always a good place to start. Then you can eventually grow back into that toy category. So that's my thought for you.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Yeah.
Those people that get the deals with Pop Mart, I am so curious what those licensing deals are and if they are licensing deals or if they are outright buys. And it sounds like it's more becoming a famous artist in like the art world scene, in the art scene. So,
Yeah, there was a recent pop-up store in London that I wasn't able to go to, but I wanted to, where they were doing a Hirono show and they had like all of the figures laid out. They had like some huge ones made for like the big promotional pieces, and then they had the artist coming in and like signing things throughout the week. It was a big deal, and I think it is more of that collaboration, whereas Pop Mart are there wanting to, they have the funds and the company and the notoriety to be selling all these figures. They
yeah.
just seem to really want to be working with people that want to create universes and like the
Mm,
characters that have stories behind them and the collections that make sense and really carry the brand because people care about the brand as opposed to just buying a generic figure. You can buy a generic figure on Temu for like 99 cents,
mm-hmm.
but people want to be buying like the characters that they feel represent what they identify with in the brand.
I feel like if you can get some more media attention around your brand, that would help you draw some attention from potential licensing partners. So I don't know if you've gotten to the part, probably not, you're busy, but with TCA, there is like the media section that was talking about how I launched my business with media placements. It's a harder now because more and more people have learned to do it, but it's really about finding like the headline for you. So for me, it was like former Toys R Us executive helps people launch their toy ideas. Like that's like the headline that like when I pitch to media, like, do you want to do a story about this? And they're like, oh, that's perfect. That sounds like something we've never done before. So for you, figuring out what that headline is, yeah,
I
go
think
for it.
with the rise of AI, I think I underestimated initially kind of how much people were going to appreciate the hand-sculpted nature of my
Mm,
designs. Because people
yeah.
seem to really enjoy that, that
Yeah.
they can see that someone's really carefully cultivated these designs by hand.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Hand sculpting UK artist launches toy line or I feel like there might be an angle to lean into like the cozy friends that like will help you basically the chaos of the world right now and then the cozy nature of Fren Forest and like a media line that's something about this cozy toy line is helping Gen Zers relax from the the chaos of the world or this cozy toy line.
Which isn't far-fetched.
Right. No, it's not at all. Is Gen Z's escape or like meet the latest cozy toy line that'll help you escape the whatever, the chaos of today. So basically, when I started with really small podcasts and I would be pitching these headlines. And then I eventually did hire somebody to help me pitch these headlines, but I would be pitching these headlines and pitching like mini stories to go with it. So I'd say, that headline idea, like cozy toy line helps people avoid blah, blah, blah. And then I would say, the world is crazy right now. People need something to make them relax. I'd love to come on your podcast and talk about how these cozy characters came to life from hand sculpting to factory production and teach your listeners about how they can make their dreams happen even in economic hard times or something. I feel like don't underestimate the power of media to help your brand grow really, really fast.
Mm.
So I feel like when you have a moment to breathe after you send out your bloops, maybe focusing on like getting media, especially when we hit Q4 and everyone's going to be talking about toys.
Yeah, I'll have to do a deep dive into that module.
It's fun-ish. It's like
Depends on how you feel about marketing, I suppose.
well, what's good about these things is like you don't have to market yourself. It's more like you're trying to make friends with people that run podcasts to start. I started with podcasts, but you might do YouTube channels. I mean, you have your whole other community that you might reach out to, like your cozy community, but they market for you. That's what's the best part about it. Like you just have to come in and be entertaining and like show your cute bloop and explain all your stories and teach a little something and then they market it. And that's the best part. Like for me, it was like just this I don't know, like this big rolling growing wheel of media that started on this teeny tiny podcast with a super introverted girl who is so sweet and ended on like the History Channel. So it's like you
Yeah.
never know like where it's gonna go. So like I don't know, just start with a teeny tiny podcast with like
Yeah.
20 listens. So if you could solve a problem today, what would you want to focus on?
I think it would be just figuring out whether or not I need to be pitching myself as a brand or more as an artist. Because
Mm.
like you say, with how people are like collaborating with pop mart and like companies like Finding Unicorn and these other toy collectors, I don't know how it's best to pitch myself. I feel like I've got this like feather in my cap now that I've done a Kickstarter, so I can say people funded this project, people are interested in these characters, like we've literally crowdfunded this
Yeah.
first run of a figure. So, but I don't know whether to position myself as more of the artist or whether I'm positioning the brand first and foremost.
So I just have to be one or the other. I mean, you are the artist, and then the brand already lives on its own, and you never put your face on there anyway. So like, it's not one or the other. It's which one do you focus on first, though?
Mm,
That might be a question. I mean, I would say your Kickstarter and your emails, oh, your emails are so great. We didn't even talk about your emails, have really built up your personality. So I would say it seems right to continue leaning into that personality. But if you do, just make sure you're leaning in the right spaces. Like I would see if you can use the success of your Kickstarter, the success of getting on this podcast and whatever, whatever else, to see if you can get like an informational interview or chat with someone that has worked with Pop Mart or one of the other companies you want to work with. See if you
mm,
can chat with one of those artists. It's not that you need a favor from them, but you need to understand the roadmap because I'm not part of that world. I don't know how they go about it, but there might be like maybe there's someone you need to meet, maybe there's a place you need to be, maybe there's a certain but like you're not going to know until you talk to someone who's been there. So even if you could
yeah.
find like the least popular plush line or collectible line that someone's done and talk to that artist, like even if it's like
Yeah.
you just want someone who's gotten in, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's been a bit difficult with the language barrier because a lot of these companies are based
Japanese.
in either Japan or China.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but for some reason, like the Western space, a lot of their companies, the bigger toy companies, just aren't focusing on the adult market, which is crazy to me because
Mm.
like the collectible space is huge
Hmm.
revenue for China and Japan especially,
Yeah.
and it's becoming so prevalent in countries like America and here in the
Yeah.
UK. The big companies like Hasbro and Mattel, like, what are you guys doing? You need to get on this.
I mean, I think they definitely are starting to work with adult, but they're not doing it in the same way. They're not leaning on artists like that.
No.
Not at all. But there's such a cultural difference. Like in Japan, like it's a little bit more community. It's so much more community. I say a little bit more. Like they're so much more community focused. So I wonder if that's part of the issue where a company's not going to immediately start a line with, yes, we're going to be giving away part of our shares or part of our sales and profit to this random artist. Like they don't even want to begin walking down that road. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, Hasbro has the Hasbro Pulse. Have you heard of that? It's essentially their like Kickstarter. They'll launch random things that their fans ask for on this Hasbro Pulse site. And that's like a whole separate product and site. So I know we've been chatting about like what to do and where your brand could go, but what is a win that you've had in the past month where you're like, wow, I actually did that?
It was the moment when I pressed end on the Kickstarter
Ah!
and we had the funding and like it was real because I think until it closed, I was just kind of sat there in disbelief that we got the funding. So yeah, just realizing that I'd actually launched and successfully funded a Kickstarter.
And what happened in your first 24 hours of launching your Kickstarter? How much did you fund?
I don't know. I think I've blacked it out
Oh
from my
my God.
memory.
Well, good thing you sent Lisa and I a very detailed email so you can read that back. I'm pretty sure, didn't you get like 50% funded in like the first day?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
A good sign is to get like a huge amount of funding on the first day. So I thought, okay, so if we're in a good place at the end of the first day, then I can feel confident going forwards. And yeah, we hit something like 50 or 60% funded on the first day. So that was
Ridiculous.
just crazy. I think we reached like £1,000 in like the first 15 minutes.
Wow. Do you remember the email you sent to hit that?
I sent an email a couple days before we launched. I can't
Hmm.
remember whether it was 5 or 3 days. And then I sent an email the day of launch. That was based on recommendation by Lisa.
Yeah.
And she suggested to launch early in the day so that you have like the full first day of funding.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And yeah, I just kind of blasted it across social media. And I think I captioned my post, if you've ever considered sharing a post, please consider
Share
sharing this
this
one.
one. Oh,
And
it's
it
so
worked. It got like loads of attention, and so
really.
many people reached out, even people that weren't able to financially support the project or lived in a shipping region that I couldn't ship to, were just like so supportive and so excited to say congratulations, like, oh my God, this is amazing. So yeah, it was a big day.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. I love when people celebrate things other than like getting married and having kids. I just love it. Whenever someone launches a business and a product and you get the support of like, I love that. That's just
Yeah.
love it. I also want to commend you because not only did you remove the flocking at your own decision, and you also insisted on your toe beans, you also insisted on your price, even against Lisa and myself. Lisa and I were like, I don't know, Joanna. We were like, this is too cheap. We think it must be more expensive. But you didn't insist blindly. You didn't just insist, like, no, this is the price I want to have. You insisted and then surveyed your audience again and again to make sure that you were giving the right price that they could afford, that you could afford, that would make sense for the line. And once you launched and 50% funded in a day, I was like, oh, she was right about the price. That's what I thought.
It was such a struggle, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's complicated because obviously if you send someone to Pop Mart, they can buy the same sort of toy for about like half the price. But obviously if I was sculpting something by hand and you were getting the original, then that would be 100 plus. So so I'm kind of taking into account the toy itself on a mass market would be cheaper. But in order for me to go through this process of making this first edition figure, this limited edition run, and getting the molding and sort of compensating myself for all of the work and sculpting, I wouldn't have been able to set my price at that price point if it hadn't been for me being the artist. If I'd had to hire an artist to design Bloop, that would have been such a huge additional expense that I think unless I was able to contribute by fulfilling some other role that took up a lot of expense, I don't know what that would be because I did a lot of the project, but yeah, being able to be the artist myself. So even if you're not an artist, if you're developing a product, do as much prototyping as you can yourself and save that money. You can figure out all of the complications. Like I've heard from people that have launched Kickstarters who come from like a tech background, and they did all of the technology. They built like this super futuristic coffee machine that can do weird and wonderful things because they had the knowledge to create that. I don't. I would have had to have hired someone to figure that out. But so yeah, being able to do the art myself was a big help in being able to stick to that lower price point.
Love it. Okay, let's spotlight on your product finally. Where can people purchase Bloop Bear? Where can they engage with Fren Forest? And what makes it so special, this world?
Well, you can find Fren Forest on Instagram, and I do a lot of toy photography and kind of world building over there. That is really just my greatest joy, just bringing this world to life and telling the little stories and developing the characters and really creating this little safe world. And so you can find and follow along the adventures there. You can find me on frenforest.com if you want to reach out, and I will be launching a pre-order store for Bloop at some point in the future, hopefully soon. So anyone that missed out on the Kickstarter who wants to get a
Oh,
little Bloop for their desk and have him as a little desk helper, you can pre-order him and those will be fulfilled probably sometime early 2026 after I've done all of the Kickstarter fulfillment. So yeah.
you are reminding me of what the last bit of advice I wanted to give earlier. You had mentioned that, how am I supposed to manage all these things on an ongoing basis? And I was going to say what it sounds like you're alluding to is a lot of artists tend to do these drop business models where it's not available all year round. And then they just drop the product like 500 units, 1,000 units at a time so that you're essentially launching 2 or 3 times a year and then that's it. And you're not doing sales year round. So I don't know if that's something you're planning on doing, but it sounds a little bit like you are.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how you manage if you're not attached to a big company like Pop
Yeah.
Mart, because you need to be able to take seasons off while you're developing new product. And then you
Yes.
sell the product and then you go back to developing. So you kind of go into like hibernation mode offline
Yeah.
for a little while.
Yeah. Okay, great. That sounds great. Where did the idea for Friend Forest come from?
Oh, it's very much inspired by my love of Animal Crossing, of Studio Ghibli, Winnie the Pooh, all of those sorts of cozy worlds.
Oh,
But in 2019, I lost my Labrador very suddenly. And
oh,
she'd been my baby since I think I was 12 when I got her.
oh no.
So it was hard, and she'd been with me through thick and thin and all of school and all of a lot of life stuff. And
Oh,
I missed having her because no matter what I was going through, no matter how well I was dealing with it, she would just be happy to see me. She would just
oh.
be company. She would not judge. She would not she would just accept me as I was in that moment. And so
No.
after losing her, I started doodling these little characters and they eventually turned into Fren Forest. So just wanting to create this cozy, safe world of characters that are just happy to enjoy quiet company, silly little adventures, and just everyday kind of joy of just being in the moment. Yeah, so that's where it came from.
That's beautiful. No wonder it has such good vibes. It came from such a good vibe place. Well, anyone listening, go to frenforest.com, FRENFOREST.com. We will also put the link in the show notes. So head over to thetoycoach.com/podcast or this episode number, and you'll see the show notes, or wherever you're listening, scroll down to the description. You'll see the show notes there. If someone's listening and they're sitting on an idea like you had, and they're thinking about making it a toy, what would you say to them about joining Toy Creators Academy?
I'd say that if you are seriously considering developing a toy, do yourself the service of just accessing all of the information like immediately. Because, like I said at the start, it would have cost me not only so much money, but years probably to figure out all of the process of making a toy and doing that through trial and error.
Right.
And this process did still involve a lot of trial and error,
Yeah.
but significantly less trial and error
Yeah.
than if I'd just embarked on this process on my own. In fact, I had a mentor before I started this when I was kind of thinking about it,
Mm.
who was helping me with some sculpting. And he said he's worked with a lot of clients around the world, and he said, I think China will swallow you up. I don't think you've got half a hope of kind of navigating that side of the business world because I am
Dang.
very introverted and I am quite a sensitive person. But
Mm.
I don't think he was saying it in any sort of malicious way or any doubt of my skill, but purely just in terms of his experience navigating China. I
Mm.
think he was trying to give me some honest advice if that's not a route you want to go down. And I remember thinking, I disagree. Um,
You're so headstrong. I love it.
I disagree with you. I think I can do this. So,
I'm gonna
so I
find
went
a way
out
to
and
do
did
it.
it.
Oh, I love that for you. Oh,
But
okay, wait,
yeah.
before I let you go, I have to ask you my favorite question. What toy or game blew your mind as a kid?
Oh, if I can cheat, I will say that probably like Animal Crossing or Pokemon that on my DS because I was a Nintendo girly and I grew up on those games and Pokemon is just it's the wonderful world. But in terms of toys, probably Build-A-Bear. I had a lot of
Really?
Build-A-Bears who were
Interesting.
all had different outfits and they all had little houses and so yeah,
And now
Build-A-Bear
you
for
have
sure.
Bloop Bear.
Yeah.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh. Joanna, this was awesome. What an inspiring journey. If people want to reach out to you, can they DM the Friend Forest Instagram? Will you get
Yeah,
those messages?
it's just me behind that
Yeah.
account, and I'm very happy to chat about art or production or
Oh.
just the world of Fren Forest or anything. Yeah.
Oh, love that. Thank you so much. Huge thanks to Joanna for sharing so much of her creative heart with us today, from sculpting clay figures in the early days to launching and successfully funding her very first toy through Kickstarter with Bloop Bear. Joanna is the perfect example of what can happen when art meets intention and has some community behind it. Joanna, thank you so much for joining us today. And you, listener, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know your time is valuable and that there are a ton of podcasts out there. So it truly means the world to me that you tune into this one. Until next week, we will see you later, toy people. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Making It in the Toy Industry podcast with Azhelle Wade. Head over to thetoycoach.com for more information, tips, and advice.